We are going to build a tree today. Hello from Farland. So what I have here is florist, what they call in the U.S. florist wire. It's usually painted green, and it comes in various thicknesses. This happens to be about 30 thousandths of an inch. I'm not sure what that would be in millimeters, but I've got this jig, and let's see, it's these pegs are about 5 inches apart. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start wrapping wire around here. You could do this freehand, but it helps if you have something to guide you to get relatively uniform loops. Got a tangle here. That's no problem. We'll just cut it. Try to straighten it out. It doesn't have to be tight. In fact, it probably shouldn't be. In fact, they don't really have to be that uniform. It's fairly soft iron, but you can bend it over and over again, and it doesn't break. That's the magic in it. So now I want to kind of crunch this down together, and I'm going to use a tool to twist it. Mostly I just want to twist them so that it doesn't come flying apart. So now we've established the beginning. We're going to draw out of this a few bunches. Let's start with 2. We're going to divide it again. What you want to do is you want to get them pointed up. Get all these wire ends pointed up. Yeah, it's starting to look like a tree already. So you just keep going. I find these fence cutters are pretty handy. I also use them for cutting the piano wire on the tortoise motors. That one might be a little bit long. Just shorten him down. It helps if you fan them out. I don't cut them so that they're even. I cut them so they're uneven. Doesn't matter where you cut them exactly, just cut them so they're not all even. We'll twist these together too a little bit. Well, I'll finish this up, and then I'll come back to you and show you the next step. See you in a second. Well, it won't be a second for me, but it will be for you. Maybe you could see this better if it had some newsprint, a little lighter color. So I'm adding roots, and I just wrap the wire around the base and then come out and loop out. And I don't know, to do that 3 or 4 times for each root. This gives it a broader look down at the base. Okay, we can twist those together now. I think this is going to be a bigger root. It's going to be shorter, but I want it to be fatter. Uh-oh. The way I do it. Got to get it balanced. There. Can't see it, can you? The beginnings of a tree. I'll get a white piece of paper. You might be able to see it better. Okay. There is the beginning of our tree. The next step in making this tree, we'll set the armature aside for a minute. What I'm going to use is some of this, which is a relatively fast-setting drywall mud. It's a soft plaster, very soft plaster. And you can wash it up with water, which is also important. So there, I put some in my little dish. Sour cream dish. Next, I'm going to use some of this earth color. And I'm going to use black. Number C1220. I'm going to put some in here. Then I'm going to stir it up. This is not the final coat of color or anything, but I just want the color to be completely all the way through the plaster. So if it chips off or something at some point in the future, there won't be any white showing. It'll be gray like the rest of the tree. A lot of people think trees are brown, but most trees are not. Most trees are gray. Bark is usually gray. Most of it. Okay, that looks good enough. I don't know if polyfiller would work for this because I'm afraid it would set up too fast. So, let's see, let's arrange things here for the camera. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start embedding this into our armature. And it doesn't really matter what it looks like because this is only the first coat. We will put several coats on it. Magic of video. I'll be back in a couple of seconds, but this will actually be a day or more. Hello again. This is the next day. It's all dried, pretty hard. So now we got to mix up some new. I'm using a better brush this time. I'm using one of my better flat brushes. You don't really need to, just it does something different to the surface to have something a little bit flat. And don't use your best brush on this unless you know that you can wash it out and clean it up. This particular material, that I'm using, the DAP, when I rinse it out, it really comes clean. Doesn't leave any residue really. What we're doing now is we're just trying to get a final shape, so it's not quite so knobbly. It's more tree-like and less like globs of plaster. And I found that stroking it up gives a better texture. Stroke out on the roots. Now I did 3 roots, but you could do 3 or 5. Don't do 4. 4 is not a very good number of roots. With anything artistic, you want to stay with the odd numbers. Even numbers wind up being pairs, and pairs aren't very interesting. Pairs of numbers, pairs of things. At least not usually. There's always an exception to every rule, I guess. Doesn't have to be perfectly smooth by any means, because we're sort of shooting for a gnarly tree. Yeah, tree trunk's getting better. Now this tree trunk is not going to be as big as the other one. The first one that you saw on the layout. Now you can make yours bigger just by adding more wire and more branches and a heavier trunk. But obviously I don't want 2 trees that look exactly the same. At least not 2 gnarly trees. Now is when you need to artistically shape what will be the part that people see. Most of it will be covered with foliage towards the end of these branches. So they won't really see that, but they might see one of these limbs peeking through. Oh yeah, that's starting to look pretty good. I'm going to work on these other roots a little bit. I call that good. Now what we have to do is we have to let this set overnight and harden up completely. And then we'll put the foliage on, well, for me tomorrow, for you in a few minutes. I think it looks good. Be back in just a minute for you. Almost finished tree. All we need is some foliage. And if you want to be real fancy, maybe you paint the bark a little bit. Some very fine dry brush striping perhaps. Something to that effect. So let's put some foliage on it. We are almost done with our tree. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that all these little wires, which are now twigs and branches, are pointed up. So I'm going to go around and point them up. I want them to form little baskets, basically, for the foliage to sit in. Might even have to cut one off that's too long or something. I think these are going to be okay, but the last tree I made, I had to cut a few off. They were just too long. It's a very nice tree. I like it. Okay. I think we're good now. Get that little Klingon off of there. So I'm going to set this over here so I can show you a couple of things. I like that tree. It's really turned out nice. One is this. How am I going to get it in the picture? Finely foliage. In this case, I'm using dark green. It comes in several different colors. It's Woodland Scenics. And I'm just going to discard this so that I can see the materials within. I already built the other tree, and I've done some other work with foliage around the layout, so this box is not as full as it could be. What I want is I want some little clumps, small clumps. Don't want any stems sticking out. All right. Okay, the next thing I need is some of this hobby tack. You could probably do this with other kinds of adhesives, certainly not PVA, white glue, but there might be some spray adhesives or something that would work. But this is a kind of convenient way. Ooh, the lids are always hard to get off these once you've opened them. And I'm just going to paint this around on all the ends, these wire ends that are sticking out. Try not to have it dripping around too much. Just sort of blot it on there. Seems to work pretty good. This stuff sticks for 1,000 years. If you get it on you, you'll know what I mean. I mean, you can rinse it off, but it just seems like it's sticky, 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 sticky forever. Hold the foliage on fairly well. Okay, that's good. It's like magic, even when the first clump goes on. When we get done, if there are any extraneous and ugly raw wires sticking out, we can always clip those off. Don't want to hit it too hard. And all these little twigs and things that fall off the tree, you know, you can, or fall off this foliage, you can take those and put them around the base of the tree as though they were little twigs and limbs that broke off and fell down. Sort of creating a forest floor kind of a look. All parts of building this tree are fun, but I've got to say this is the funnest part. At least hide the wires of the armature. Oh, that's a nice tree. What I'm doing is I'm going around places like this That's the way you build a tree. Bye from Farland.